so I can mute when if there's any noise or kids. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, sweetie. Well, good day to you, and a very warm welcome from me, Tim Hutchings, to this 65th edition of the Warandecross Tilburg Cross Country. We are in the Netherlands for this Silver Label World Athletics Cross Country meeting. It's put on by the local organising committee under the Dutch Athletics Federation. Tilburg, well, it's the 7th biggest Dutch city, and this is the setting for this Warandecross Tilburg Cross Country, powered by WACCT Europe. We're about 80 kilometres southeast of Rotterdam, a rather glorious forest of Oude Voorande, a park created at the beginning of the 18th century by William VIII of Hesse-Kassel. It's actually a 3-day cross-country meeting. 4 races coming at us now over the next 2 hours. First of all, the men's senior race, which promises to be a really, really fierce affair of racing. It's over 10 kilometres. And one of the main protagonists is expected to be Niels Laros, the 19-year-old Dutchman who is a fabulous talent. He was 6th in the Olympic 1500 metres in Paris back in August. Up against him, Ilias Fifa of Spain, a more experienced 35-year-old who was European champion over 5,000 back in 2016. And, of course, a mass of other runners too in this one. There are in fact some 96 starters in this race about to get underway, just getting final instructions there from the officials who have done a wonderful job. It's a lovely sunny morning. It's about 13 degrees in this part of the Netherlands, about 80 kilometers southeast of Rotterdam, as this field is about to get underway. More information on the leading protagonists when they get going. And away they go for this first race, starting exactly on time, 1 o'clock Central European time, 12 noon in the UK. Look out too for Phil Montesvu of the Netherlands. He was 4th here last year. Indeed, the first 4 from last year have returned to this event. It's very flat, I have to say that, but it is a little bit boggy in places in this glorious park. And as they get underway, you can see Laros there with the blonde hair right in the centre of the picture. What a talent he is. European Youth Champion back in 22, European Junior 5000 champion in 2023. That, ironically, is one of the muddiest patches on the entire course. Yeah, this is good testing conditions underfoot. I like races, cross-country races, where the underfoot conditions vary. Don't like races that are simulated track races virtually. Stan Neeston, the 28-year-old Dutchman, is the early leader there, 105. 5 times he's raced in the European Cross-Country Championships. Recently was 8th in the Nijmegen 15 kilometres. That was just last Sunday. So he's in very good shape indeed. Always good to come into a race with 2 or 3 recent races behind you, to get into that racing frame of mind, both psychologically and physically, actually. He's having a little glance around there, Neeston. Back in 2015, he was 6th in the under-20 race here. As I say, he's 28 years old now, very experienced. And this is pretty quick, stretching them out very fast. There's only a couple of minutes on the clock. Can't see Laros there just yet, up in the top 6 or 8. There he is in the blonde. Send her a picture right now in that purple top. There's Laros going through. I'm sure he will ease through to the front end over the next few minutes. But just getting into the groove, so to speak, here is the man who raced in Cardiff a couple of weeks ago in South Wales. He was 10th in Cardiff, Laros, so he has come into this with a little bit of racing behind him. Now they're settling down. That's a big pack. That's about 6 or 8 across at the front end. Laros there to the right of picture. Still, Stan Neaston, the Dutchman, in the lead at the moment. Marginally. But that pack's about 25 strong. You can see what the conditions are like. It's a lovely sunny morning. Much nicer than in much of Europe, where there are strong winds and a bit of a storm coming through the UK, for example. Tesfu is right up there as well. Tesfu wearing 104 and 150 actually going through, as well as Senai Fisahatsion. He's the defending champion. He's a Norwegian these days, formerly Eritrean, the 28-year-old. But they are shifting, aren't they? Because these are really good conditions. What wind there is about, they're sheltered from it, really, in the depths of the forest. And I have to tell you that 13 degrees centigrade is just about a perfect temperature for distance racing, for a race like this, a 10K cross country. Well, they're pouring through. It is quite narrow in places. These are two lead cyclists doing a good job. And Neaston now, the early leader, has dropped back into the pack at about 6th place, something like that. 137 up there as well. Sander van Kouteren of Belgium. A lot of the Belgians make the trip up north a few kilometres to get into this annual gala of racing. But now they're moving really well. And Fisahatsion, I think that is back in about 4th or 5th. He won last year by just 1 second in 29.10, which is a pretty tasty time for 10K. Now Laros has moved up a few places. He's up into about 8th place there as they go through. Only just over 4 minutes on the clock so far, but already look how stretched out they are over 100 metres and more. And this athlete, well, can you believe he's in the lead and his number has flopped down and he can't be identified. He won't be aware of it. Commentator's nightmare, that is called, when an athlete goes to the front. He's not a familiar face and his bib number is either ripped off or else is invisible. Still 137 in that yellow strip is Van Verkouteren. 115 going through as well. That's Stan Schipperen from the Scorpio Club. Well, I'll tell you what, I think this is Sander Verkouteren, who's kicked in really hard, only just over 5 minutes on the clock, just over 6 minutes now, and he's kicked in really hard, maybe feeling it was just a little bit too slow, this one. Sander Verkouteren, unheralded. This would be a massive upset, but there's a long way to go. Remember, 10K, this should take about 29 minutes to conclude. So he's got well, some 22, 23 minutes of hard running to come yet. But he's really taken the bull by the horns, and that will make the more favoured starters fully focus and try and close him down, because he's built a lead of, what, about 10 or 15, maybe 20 metres now. And that's created a little bit of panic in the pack. You could almost call it respectability, because they've had to up their game. They're on the second of 6 laps. And it's Jurjen Polderman who now has taken the lead. Well, Jurjen Polderman and Yunus Kania is also up there for Spain. But Polderman, well, he's certainly not expected to be up there for too long. Just going through my start list and trying to see him, actually. Yeah, there he is, 151. Jurjen Polderman of the Sprint Club. Little glance over his shoulder there. I don't know if this is bluffing or if he can maintain this and will run away to a surprise victory. But that lead is what? Probably down to about 20 metres now. Beautifully designed, laid out park. The glorious avenues lined with saplings make it aesthetically one of those rather glorious cross-country races. And it should suit the likes of Laros. He's a good 5,000 metre runner, obviously a world-class 1,500 metre runner. He's run 3:29 for 1,500. He's a member of that very select group of athletes who have gone under 3:30 for the metric mile. He's got great speed too. He's a 1:44 800 metre runner. And I rather fancy him to come through and finish in the top half dozen in this Laros. He's back in about 7th place at the moment. But it's still Jurgen Bulderman who leads, although that lead now from 20 metres has gone down to about 5. He's gradually being reeled in here. He's small, isn't he? Pitter-patter stride. Several of those athletes in the chasing 6 or 8 tower over him, and he is being reeled in now. The gap is down to almost nothing. But at least he threw the cat amongst the pigeons and has really woken up this field. Well, the camera catching the athletes going past one of the pond areas of the forest here. But back at the front end, still that yellow vest of Polderman. Although right up behind him is that 190. Yes, it is 190. That's Tim van der Velde of Belgium. Just in his slipstream. And of course, there are several acts yet to unfold in this race. Only 10 minutes on the clock now. But the gaps are beginning to appear. And you get the impression we're into the meat of the race now. About a third of the total distance done. I still think the bigger names who will feature towards the end of the race are biding their time. These little logs creating something that just breaks up the rhythm. Good to see that in what is a very flat cross-country course. It's not a traditional cross-country course with lumps and bumps and twists and turns, which is what I prefer. I must admit, call me a traditionalist, but I think cross-country should be different to flat distance racing. the front end, and that is more like the image we expected. Still a good number in that front pack, probably what, 12, 14 up there within a second or two of each other in this men's senior race. Now, as you can see, some 14 minutes on the clock. And it has slowed a little bit. Tactical. One or two of them just looking around, glancing at each other. Also up there, Nico Lemmink, the 26-year-old who was 17th here last year. He's going better than that so far today. Several of those fellas looking very comfortable in that pack. Nobody has yet really thrown the gauntlet down in this critical middle section of the race. 6 laps, remember. And in these narrow sections, it is good to be in the lead to be able to get your footing right, avoid any roots and obstacles that might be there that could hinder you or even trip you. In one of the junior races before we came on air, I was watching, did see somebody go down. Generally, the underfoot conditions are really, really good here, though, as we see that pack go through. And now it'd be good to get back to the front end of the race. Here we go, those cyclists doing a good job, and a shout out too for the organising committee and the volunteers who have done so much work to enable this gala of 3 days of racing to take place. Thousands of runners enjoying a run through this forest. Well, the leader going through after with over 15 minutes on the clock now is the Austrian, one of the Austrian competitors. Just looking for his number there. He goes through, couldn't clock that number. That's frustrating. Apologies for that. And of course, 1 or 2 connectivity problems with the pictures here. It would be so good to get a good clear view of the leader here. There we go. That's more like it. Was that 129? I think. I don't think it was 129. That would be Ruben Sansom from Maastricht. And I'm told it's an Austrian in the lead. But that's single file now for these athletes as the race wears on. We're well into the middle third of the race now. And I just get the impression that an athlete, it is 129, Ruben Sansom of the Maastricht club who leads. I thought it was 129. Laros up into 3rd place. He looks comfortable for my running suit. He is long and lean. We know he's got fabulous speed. He was 2nd in the European Under-20 cross-country last year in Brussels, so he has wonderful stamina, along with that 1:44 800-meter speed. He was 2nd in those European Under-20s last year in very muddy Brussels to Denmark's Axel van Christensen. He only lost by 1 second. It was a real ding-dong to the finish line between the pair of them. But here you can see Sansom, Ruben Sansom, from the Maastricht club, really testing this field and dragging it out, and it's now getting reduced down, and that lead pack of 20 a few minutes ago is down to, well, what about 8 or 9 within 2 or 3 seconds of the leader. One athlete almost slipping there, yes, in the conditions. The leaves and the mud and the damp underfoot does make it testing in places. And a new leader too. I think that's Pulderman again, is it? The early leader who's hit the front now. But now people are getting stretched out. The gaps are appearing. Ruben Sansom from Mohammed, Abdirahman Mohammed in 2nd place. Yes, Mohammed wears 121 for the Chifla club. Stan Schipperen is up there as well. He's having a fabulous run. And of course, Laros making his presence felt now in second place, has eased onto the into the slipstream there behind the leader. And now we're down to 6. Yeah, it has taken some almost 20 minutes for the cream to rise to the top. Doesn't look like Fisehadsion, the Norwegian, the former Eritrean, is going to make a successful defence of his title from last year. He did win the Norwegian cross-country championships on the 6th of October. So we know he's in reasonable shape, Fisehadsion, but doesn't look like he's in the same shape as last year. But now with 2/3 of the race done, I get the feeling we're going to have a real ding-dong here. 121 is Mohammed with the headband. And these three beginning to get away. Those gaps are growing very quickly indeed. And ominously, Niels Laros, the under-23 athlete, you have to remember, and it is hard to get your head around it, that Laros, who was 10th in the World Championships 1500 in Budapest last year, and then this year 6th in the Olympic 1500-metre final, he's still only 19 years old, is Laros, so no wonder he's an under-23. He'll be under-23 for another 2 or 3 seasons. Quite astonishing. He's a confident young man too. Attended his press conference last year at the European Cross Country Championships in Brussels, and he oozed confidence, not arrogance, but confidence. He also set a world under-20 record for 1,000 metres back in the summer, 2:14. He's got supreme speed endurance, and I rather feel as though he's got this one in the bag if he can just hang in there and use his pace over the last few hundred metres. Looks comfortable. Abdurrahman Mohammed in 3rd place in the headband and the red top. Just gliding along in their slipstream. Mustn't write him off. But Stan Schipperen, Ruben Sansom, all have contributed to this at the front end. And now these three really are beginning to stretch away, and that gap behind them is getting bigger and bigger. And that tells me, A, that those behind are really suffering, but B, perhaps more significantly, they're winding it up here. 106, Nick Lemick, it is who leads. And Lemick, who was only 17th here last year, doing a fabulous job here of whittling it down to just himself and a couple of competitors. He set a big personal best this year, over 3,000 metres. Not world class, but in Leuven in July, he ran 7:51 for 3,000. He's only run 13:44 for 5,000. Again, that was in July. But he has had a lot of personal bests this year, and I was wondering if he could convert those personal bests to a better run here than last year. Well, he certainly is. He's run a 28:48 for 10k. He hasn't raced since July, Lemick, in yellow. So he comes here very fresh, and he looks to have prepared for this wonderfully well. These three now with a gap of about 50 or 60 metres on the pursuers, and Laros looks to me like he's chomping on the bit. Moves onto the shoulder of Lemick here. Is he just biding his time, the 19-year-old who's running with such maturity? 23 minutes on the clock now. And the clock has caught up a little while ago. I think it was somewhere behind us. So, The pursuers working really hard to go with this. Kenia of Spain in fourth, and Kevin Karmanchuk, back in fifth place. Lemik from Laros from Abdirahman Mohammed. I don't think there's much wind about, but it almost looks like Mohammed is slipstreaming. Does that indicate perhaps that he's hanging on here and under a little bit of pressure? He looks comfortable enough. Does Mohammed of the Chifla Club. Well, Laros ran in San Sebastian on the 3rd of November, was 11th there, was 10th in Cardiff the following week. So he has prepared well for this, comes into this. And, of course, the winners get automatic selection for those European cross-country championships in Antalya, Turkey. Those are in just a couple of weeks' time. Lemik, a nervous little glance over his shoulder here, as they're actually lapping athletes now. But Lemik has done a wonderful job here of reducing this field down. And last year, when he was 17th, he was 52 seconds behind the winner. Well, we know he set a series of personal bests this year. He comes here very fresh. And boy, oh boy, has he peaked well for this one, Nick Lemik. 26 years old, of course. He's got quite a few years of training in his legs on top of those that Laros carries in his teenage legs. But has Abdirahman Mohammed got a shock in store for the big pair? 26 minutes on the clock. They've only got about 3 minutes of running to come. If it was a track 3,000 or 5,000, they'd effectively be going through the bell now. So Laros has really got to gather himself psychologically. Yeah, the gaps back to the 4th, 5th, 6th places have grown enormously. But Niels Laros, well, he has run a very mature race. Hits the front for the first time with a couple of minutes to run. Lemik, for the first time in 10 minutes and more, back to 3rd place with Abdirahman Mohammed slotting in behind Laros. And he's been able to respond to the 1,500-metre specialist surge here with a minute or two to go. But can he hold on? Laros now stretching, really applying the pressure to the other two. Look at that, slightly leading into this is Laros now, as the gap grows to 4, 5 metres. And surely this is decisive. The spectators applauding the young Dutch superstar as he eases away now to what was perhaps a predictable win. A high caliber performance here from Niels Laros, who seems to have gone through the autumn months of training very well indeed, and he's enjoying himself here, and he doesn't really look under much pressure, does he? He's got a long stride, fabulous leg speed, and he's easing away here from Abdirahman Mohammed to this win. The log obstacles for the final time. Abdirahman Mohammed in 2nd place goes through. Nick Lemik, who's had a fabulous run, looks like he'll make the rostrum. He goes through in 3rd. And now effectively on the home straight. Niels Laros. Never one to panic. This young man who's a European youth 1,500-metre champion back in 2022. The following year, last year, he was European junior champion at 5,000 metres. He's run a 3:48 mile. He's run 4:49 for 2,000. 13:23 for 5,000. And don't forget that 1:44.7, 800 meter speed. He's got a wonderful array of weapons up his sleeve, this young man. And he hasn't had to really dig too deep into that sack of capabilities to take this victory today. He's stretching away now inside the last few hundred meters, and that gap, frankly, to Mohammed has opened up really quickly over the last couple of minutes. The chasers all flat out, of course. They've been redlining for a long time. But Laros through the mud for the final time. And Mohammed, well, he too in glorious isolation in second place. The pace has ratcheted up dramatically over the last few minutes. And here he comes now, just 19 years old. Niels Laros, the great hope of Dutch middle distance running. Sixth in the Olympic 1500 metres, but a clear winner today in this 65th edition of the Warandecross Tilburg cross country. Fabulous run from him. Mohammed looks happy with his second. Lemick makes it onto the roster with third. And a big gap behind them, maybe 60 or 70 metres to the fourth placer. Great run that from Lemick. Laros just a little check over his shoulder there. He had nothing to worry about. He was about 30 metres clear, acknowledging the applause of the crowd here. And he projects himself towards those European cross-country championships in Turkey in 2 weeks' time in very fine fettle indeed. He will start in Antalya as one of the favourites. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely brilliant from this young man. Laros from Mohammed from Lemick. It was Younes Kenia of Spain in fourth. Kevin Kamenchuk of Poland in fifth. Sander Verkouteren of Belgium in sixth. And then the Dutchman Sanson and his compatriot are back in eighth place. Fokkenrud taking eighth behind Sansom seventh. There it is, the first 8 in the senior men's race here. Niels Laros winning by 7 seconds from Abderrahman Mohammed. Nick Lemick in third, 29.44, a further couple of seconds back. But that's very, very impressive indeed from Laros. And it's a rare 1,500-metre runner that can dominate and coast home to victory over 10K cross-country in quite such style. That winning time 29.35, but in this 65th edition of the Warandecross cross country, powered by Capi Europe. The senior men's race is next to come. That's at 1:40 local time, 12:40 UK. So in about 7 or 8 minutes time, but certainly I think that in itself, the result of that senior men's race will send the Dutch hosts home at the end of the afternoon very, very happy indeed, because he is a superstar. He's recognised the world over as one to watch. Niels Laros at the age of 19, finishing 6th in that brilliant Olympic 1500 final in Paris. And it looks like he's pushing towards a very successful 2025 as well. The World Championships, of course, coming up at the end of next summer. They'll be in Tokyo, Japan in September. The whole Diamond League season will have unfolded before that. It's the new model of format, the new format and the timetable for the athletics season, where World Athletics want the World Championships to be the final climactic event of the summer's racing season, and nothing else will happen after it. No major races or meetings will take place after the World Championships. The whole idea is that, as in many other sports, the World Championship, the ultimate event of the season, is the climactic event of the season, and there is a lot of logic to that. Some people think that, well, the athletes are in their best form possible at the World Championships. Why not let them then go round and display their wares at other meetings after the World Championships? That's something that's been discussed at some length, but obviously the powers that be at World Athletics down in Monaco believe that concluding the season with the World Championships makes a lot of sense. Bookend the season with the first Diamond League meeting, and then end it with the World Championships. So the senior women's race over 8 kilometres, quite a long distance that for the women, who had traditionally run significantly shorter in cross-country races. That gets underway at 1:40 local time. That's 12:40 in the UK. And in that senior women's race, well, there is expected to be quite a tussle, with one athlete, Sarah Lati, going for a hat-trick of wins, having won in 2022 and last year. Whether or not she can pull that off remains to be seen. She will have significant competition, of course, from local athlete Maureen Costa, the 32-year-old Dutch athlete who is very, very experienced. That women's race in about 6 minutes' time. Well, the leading women getting ready now for their run out over the flat, fast course of the Oude Veranda. This 65th edition of the Warandecross Tilburg Cross Country. The ladies are ready. Engines revving for this second elite race of the day. And I can tell you there are about 50 starters in this one. They're due off at 1:40 local time. That's in about 3 minutes, 12:40 UK time. Sara Lahti is the defending champion, the 29-year-old Swede, but we do know she's had injury problems throughout much of this year. Comes from Hässelby, about 50 kilometres northwest of Stockholm, and going for a hat-trick, Sara Lahti. She won in 2022 and in 26:40 by 16 seconds. But those injuries she's had this year, she hasn't had any races between March to October, almost 8 months. She was 18th in the World Championships over 10,000 metres last year in Budapest. And last year had a very busy year, very full year of track and road races, but quite the opposite this year, the 11 times Swedish champion. Maureen Costa, expected to be perhaps one of the biggest threats to her. She's had a wonderful year as Costa, the 30-year-old Dutch athlete. 4th in the European Championships 5,000 metres in Rome back in June. Set a personal best of 14:44 in that race, less than half a second behind the bronze medal position. Very frustrating that for her. Emmy van den Berg there, whereas number 5 right in centre of picture. Number 8 beside her, that's Merel van der Marel, the 25-year-old Dutch athlete who ran in the European Cross Country Championships last year. The officials making sure all the athletes understand the course that is coming at them, although I suspect most of them have warmed up and done 1 or 2 laps of the circuit. Look out too for Yasmin Lau, 25-year-old Dutch athlete who was 7th in the European Championships 10,000 metres in Rome, behind WACCT. Remember the Italian in front of the home crowd, performing quite magnificently to take gold at 5,000 and 10,000 metres, and then performed quite supremely come the Paris Olympic Games as well. Took a medal there over 10,000 metres. So the starter is behind the camera here, up against a tree. The athletes will run past a tree as they get ready to get going. Away they go then, picking their way through those early meters of mud. Now, will this follow a similar pattern to the men's race, where the first half was run at a fairly modest tempo, and then it began to get cranked up through the third, through the 4th, 5th, and 6th laps? Well, Lati, with the blonde hair and the black top, to the right of that group as we see them running away at the front. I wonder if she will be a bit of a surprise. And I say a surprise, bearing in mind the fact she's had so many injuries this year. She's very useful on the track, not really world class until you get up towards 10,000 metres, 10k on the road. She holds the Swedish national record of 31:18. She holds the Swedish half marathon record with 68:19. And she has hit the front, and the bigger names straight to the front in this women's race, which perhaps doesn't have the same strength and depth as the men's race. But less than a minute and a half on the clock. And it is Lati who leads from Veerle Bakker and Julie Vogt as well. Vogt was 7th in the national championships for Belgium last week. Last weekend, the Belgians held their national cross-country championships. The British cross-country championships was just yesterday, on Saturday. The Vogt is an under-23 runner. And Lati, well, look at this. Talk about throwing the gauntlet down. Wow. 2 minutes on the clock, and she's already breaking away. Now, is she bluffing, or has she got herself back into good shape? To be fair, an athlete of her ability and experience, I don't think she'd come here and race and expose herself to competitive conditions unless she felt she was in pretty good shape. Number 5 goes 3 Meow and van den Bergen in blue there. Number 7 is Roxanne Klepper, the 23-year-old. Has run 3 10k BUBs this year. Klepper. Well, it is a very different complexion to the early meters of this one to the men's race, because Lati has blasted away. Now, is she going to build a lead here or just maintain that gap on the pack of, what, about 10 or 15 meters? It is that blue vest of Roxanne Klepper who's leading the chasing pack. And then also, I think up there was Yasmin Lau alongside Klepper. But Lati, 11 times the Swedish champion. 18th, as I said, in the 10,000 metres in Budapest last year in sweltering heat. I can tell you that she's 3 times set national records for the half marathon for the Swedes. Back in 2017 and in 2020 and 2021. She's a very consistent racer, is Lahti. Although, as I say, a little question mark beside her true fitness with her injuries that have ripped the heart out of this year. Almost 8 months she's been out with injuries this year without any racing. But here she is going for the hat-trick in the Warandecross cross-country today. And against what many thought, that there would be some doubts in her form, she is looking quite marvellous there. Nicely proportioned to, lovely, smooth-looking runner, isn't she, Lahti, the Swede? And in fact, that gap is growing back to her pursuers. Hasn't glanced back once. Full of confidence, really leaning into that section there and working hard with her arms. I think she's trying to create a gap that is so big that she can settle down and really relax. And it's working too. Look at that. The gap has grown from 10 metres to something like 40 metres, literally in the last couple of minutes. She's operating at a totally different level to the athletes behind her. I think that was Juliet Thomas, was it? It's gone through in second place, wearing 6. Bib number 6. Hard to tell. The bib numbers actually aren't that big on the bibs. Let's have a look as she comes through now. There's Lahti going through. And that is a comfortable lead. Let's have a look at this athlete. Oh, all right, let's not. Wanted to get the shot of Lahti going over the logs, but I was really hoping we'd get a clearer view of that athlete in second place. It is Klepper who goes through in third. But the gaps are growing all the time, very early. And there's less than 6 minutes on the clock. Look, bottom right of your screen, you can see that it is less than 6 minutes into the race. And it looks like we've got a runaway leader. Lahti making light of those logs, not taking any chances. Plenty of daylight between herself and the logs. And here you get a great view. That foreshortening effect of the camera shot makes the gaps relatively small, but they're much bigger in reality. And Lahti is pulling away with every stride. And as has been the case on each of the last 2 occasions when she's won here in Tilburg, she is operating at a different level altogether to the rest. And on this sort of form, she will be very high up in Antalya at the European Cross Country Championship. She's moving well. No let up whatsoever. Well, second goes through, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 in that chasing pack, battling over third place. And it does look for the moment like Klepper might be going through a bad section. I think that was Vandenberg who was up there as well in third place, leading the chasing group. But I like this. I like this tactic of Lahti. It's it's the pure form of distance running, going out from the gun hard, no tactics, no strategy, just bang, off you go, slap the gauntlet down on the feet of all your rivals and test them and say, match this if you can. And at the moment, none of them can. Lahti, in this 8K with 7.5 minutes on the clock, has built a lead of what? Probably about 10 seconds now. And it is Veerle Bakker, Emmy Vandenberg. Veerle Bakker, the 27-year-old, was 18th in Rome at the European Championships over 10,000 metres. Vandenberg in third place. She's just 22. She's the leading under 23 athlete is Vandenberg. But Veerle Bakker, there she is, wearing number 9. 4 times national champion in the steeplechase for the Netherlands. including last two summers, 22 and 23. Not this year. Comes from Amersfoort. She has attended in the past the University of Portland in the USA, and she ran a couple of weeks ago in Cardiff in South Wales in the UK. Came 11th in Cardiff, so she's sharpening up for this one. But here comes Lati. Now, maybe here we'll get an idea of the size of that lead. She's got a big enough lead, I think, to sort of settle down into this race now and just needs to maintain her form. And if she needs to, at the odd corner or bend, she can glance across, glance back and see how that gap is growing. But it's, well, let's look at the clock, bottom right of your screen. That gap is about, yeah, it's about 9 seconds, I think. That's a big, big gap back to Viola Bacca. Good cross-country runner, Bacca. She was 10th in the European cross-country in Turin in December 2022 in northern Italy. And certainly here, I think this will give her, as the first Dutch athlete home, remember the leader, Lati, is for Sweden, it will give her automatic selection for those European cross-country championships in Antalya. This is one of the first big stop-offs on the World Athletics cross-country circuit of the cross-country season. Although there is a slight leaning these days towards making the European cross-country circuit, or season I should say, mirror that of the USA, where really all the cross-country is done between September and the Christmas period. And then you go into there's a clear defining between cross-country season and going into the indoor season from the festive period onwards. That, in a way, makes sense having the European cross-country in December, although the World cross-country is in March. Although I think it has been in February last year. This year it was in March. But Lati easing away still. I think that gap is growing slowly. She's very much an athlete whose real strength lies in endurance. She's a 4:08 1500 meter runner, quite some way outside world class. 8:54 for 3000. That again, way out of world class. And she's never broken 15 minutes for 5000. But then you get up into the longer distances at 10k on the road, 31:18. She's run a 68-minute half marathon. She is an athlete who feels more and more comfortable the further a race goes on. There's the chasing figure of Viola Bacca. Now that gap has grown. I reckon it's about 10 or 12 seconds now. Lovely mover, isn't she? Lati, well balanced, very calm looking. Just gets on with the job at hand. Well, maybe the months out of injury through this year have benefited Lati. Maybe it's just refreshed her at the same time as an injury is recovering. So your body is replenishing, and psychologically too, you can refreshen. So there is always a silver lining to an injury cloud. And it does look like she's going to make a successful defence of her title. Remember, this is an 8-kilometre race, only 12.5 minutes on the clock. But going for a hat-trick here is Lati. And I can't see anybody stopping her here, barring disaster. And equally comfortably separated from the rest of Viola Bacca in second place there. That chasing pack of 4, working hard to get back to her. But she's doing a marvellous job of staying clear, is the 27-year-old Dutch athlete. That steeplechase strength makes her a special breed. I always think steeplechasers are made of a different metal. It's a very tough event, the steeplechase. And in that respect, their mentality suits them to cross-country. There she goes through Bacca now. How big is the gap behind her? It's quite a few seconds. I reckon about 6 or 8 seconds back to that chasing quartet. Very hard to separate those athletes. Julie Vogt is in there. Larty making light of this. So, after 3 laps, Larty 13:45. And the gap behind her, well, it's enormous now. Vera Bakker 13 seconds down. Yeah, that gap has grown. And you can see the others there as well. Vogt, Vandenberg, Roxanne Klepper. Klepper in the blue. Number 10, that's Ineke van Kuldam, the 27-year-old. Has only had 1 race this year, and that was back in February. Also up there, Vandenberg, at the back of that group, wearing number 5. She's an under-23 athlete, runs for the Prince Hendrik Club. Was 8th in Cardiff 2 weeks ago. There is the top 8. Behind Klepper is Lila Boom of Hungary, and then Sophia van Akkom is also up there as well. Van Akkom, 35 years old, was 9th in the Belgian Championships last weekend, the Herentals Athletic Club athlete. And wearing her Portland vest there is Veerle Bakker. Interesting, racing in Europe, wearing her American University vest. There's the group coming through behind the second placer. Number 10, that is Van Kuldam in the pink. Larty then, this big lead. 13 seconds at last count and growing. Well, the twists and the turns and the changes of surface aren't bothering Larty at all. And dealing with them with almost equal aplomb is Veerle Bakker, the steeplechaser from Amersfoort. Her steeplechase personal best, 9:45, by the way. That was earlier on this year. Not really world class, quite some way outside world class. I think she probably is in her element, running cross country. Bakker, the 27-year-old Dutch athlete. There she goes, easing past the pond. The blue vest of Roxanne Klepper seems to be leading that chasing group. Now, are they closing down on Bakker in second place? Has there been a slight shift? Nearly 17 minutes on the clock. Just over 17 minutes now. And while Larty strides on her merry way, it does look like maybe there's a threat to Veerle Bakker in second place, who has been chasing hard in isolation for a long time now. And I think the pack of 4 behind might be closing on her. Let's have a look. Larty, the defending champion, knows this course well, enjoys this course. But look at the gap behind her now. That has grown massively. It was 13 seconds a couple of minutes ago. Well, I reckon now that's more like 20 seconds. And maybe Veerle Bakker is going through a bad patch. Yes, because here's that trio. It was 4, but it's a trio now being led by the blue vest of Roxanne Klepper. They are closing on Bakker. Maybe the burden of running in isolation for the last 10 minutes has taken its toll on Bakker. Larty, well, nothing's taken its toll on her. She's destroying this field, pulling further and further clear, and this may yet be the biggest winning margin of her 3 victories. I say 3 victories. She's got to win this one yet, but it looks like it's coming. But yeah, they're closing with every stride, aren't they? The chasers have got Viola Baca in their sights. They can smell a catching of this young athlete. She is 27, Baca. Very experienced. Will she be able to rally as she realises they have caught her? It is the blue vest of Roxanne Klepper who is dragging the pursuing group. Just 2 of them now, actually. Klepper, and I think in pink is Van Koldam, Ineke Van Koldam. Yes. So, here it is. Viola Baca being reeled in by Klepper in blue. And Van Koldam in the pink. And they're almost a pack of 3 now, chasing Sarah Lati. With 19.5 minutes come and gone on the clock, these 3 locked together, and only 2 of that chasing pack can make it onto the rostrum. They've had to work hard, mind you, to catch Viola Baca. And if she can, now she needs to dig deep and push on and try to make them work even harder. Not get a rest tucked in behind her, but maintain the pressure on them. 20 minutes on the clock has gone through. Lati, 20.09 after 4 of the 5 laps. Now, the chasers, as they head out onto the final lap, locked together. Klepper, Van Koldam and Baca, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. And Baca back in 4th place now, and she is struggling. The athlete in the black vest of Portland, her American University, with Roxanne Klepper, who was up towards the front very early on, then went through a bad patch, but has rallied. And at the latter end of this race has really come through strongly. And back in 5th place, great running by Julie Vogt, who was 7th in the Belgian Championships last week. Klepper, Van Koldam, Baca, Vogt. Emmy Vandenberg back in 6th place. The 22-year-old, she's an under-23 athlete. Very modest track personal at best, but so often great cross-country runners don't have fabulous track credentials. It's a different skill, and that's why I believe that should be maintained and encouraged by course designers. I always feel as though cross-country is a different sport in its own right, a bit like road running is different to track running. So cross-country should make unique demands on the athlete. What's the point otherwise if it's just another distance race? But Lati, with that big lead, and the gap now, well, it's got to be 20 seconds and more, as the blue vest of Klepper brings her through in front of the pink vest of Van Koldam. There they go through in 2nd and 3rd, and Baca really has hit the buffers, hasn't she? She's struggling here over this final lap, Baca, who for so long, the 27-year-old Dutch athlete, held 2nd place. Now she's back in 4th and could be threatened for 5th, I think. Vogt, it is, back in 5th, closing down on Baca. There's 2nd and 3rd going through. Roxanne Klepper and Van Koldam having their own little ding-dong there in 2nd and 3rd. Baca goes through in 4th. Difficult section underfoot that. They sweep down that little bank. Tree roots, slippery leaves, mud, changing surface. Here is Baca, Viola Baca going through. Now, Lati on what is a celebratory victory lap to confirm this hat-trick of wins at this 65th edition of the Warandecross Tilburg cross country. It has been a quite magnificent run. Very, very different to the win of Laros in the men's race, who eased to the front over the final lap and then pulled away in the latter stages. This has been a truly dominant performance from the 29-year-old Swede. You wouldn't think she'd been away injured for much of this year, would you? Normal service is resumed for Sarah Lahti. It's been a brilliant run. Untroubled, unfazed, unchallenged as well. I do like this course. If you haven't got hills, then at least make it twist and turn and have muddy section. There are a few lumps and bumps, nothing significant. But this is interesting. Look, the pink vest of Van Kuldam has eased away from that blue vest of Roxanne Klepper. Well, Van Kuldam, who's had just one race this year in 2024. That was back in February. And she's got herself into second place here. And has got a slight lead over Klepper in blue. Topper picture there. Lahti way ahead. That's about a 20-second gap. The foreshortening effect there of this front-on shot is very deceptive. Lahti moving so well. The pink vest of Van Kuldam in second place. And now the first 5 in shot. Sarah Lahti then on the final stages now of what has been a truly dominant run. And any fears that she might come here half prepared, not in her best possible shape, well, they have been allayed, because with 26 minutes on the clock, she negotiates the last few little lumps and bumps and twists and turns as the battle for second place continues. And I'll tell you what, Roxanne Klepper hasn't given up yet, has she? She's chasing hard here, that pink vest of Ineke van Kuldam. Van Kuldam in pink, then Van Klepper in blue, second and third. The gap's about 8 or 10 metres between them. The last little muddy section there, negotiated by Sarah Lahti. And she's a fascinating athlete, because she's not world-class in the middle distances. Her times at the longer distances start to get a lot more respectable. She does hold the national records for Sweden at 10k on the road and half marathon. But here she seems to be in her element on the country. And for the third time, the third consecutive time, it is indeed a hat-trick for the 29-year-old Swede, Sarah Lahti. She takes the women's race very comfortably indeed, unofficially there in 27 minutes dead. Well, 26:58, in fact, they're giving it. And it is, she hangs on there. Does Ineke van Kuldam to take second place. And in third, also onto the rostrum. Great running from Roxanne Klepper there. But a very comfortable victory indeed. I think they might have closed up a little bit on Lahti in the latter stages. Yes, look, the gap, 17 seconds with Van Kuldam and Klepper in second and third. And then WACCT coming through for fourth place, having been caught just a few minutes ago. There it is, the first 5 home. Lahti, Van Kuldam, Klepper, WACCT and Vogt. Julie Vogt there taking 5th place. And Emmy Vandenberg in 6th place. So Lahti winning for Sweden yet again. Van Kuldam has got automatic selection guaranteed, I think, with that second place. And Roxanne Klepper for Belgium can be very, very pleased with that indeed. Set 3 personal bests this year at 10k, Klepper. The best was a 32.04 in Utrecht on the 8th of September. Recently, she was fourth in their national cross-country championships just last week. Klepper. And there you can see the first 8 home today in this women's contest. Lati, it was, who took the win. 17 seconds, her winning margin. She has won by a bigger margin than that. In fact, 2 years ago it was 16 seconds, so she's almost as equally dominant this year. Sophie van Akkom just behind Lilleboom there, rounding out the top 8. 28.20. Well, she's a good way down, a minute and 22 seconds down on Sarah Lati. In fact, those first 3 or 4 way ahead of the pursuers. Big gap actually behind the Vandenberg in 6th place. Look, 27.44, and Lilleboom 28 seconds. That gap behind Vandenberg in 6th. Well, and they don't mess around, do they? The presentation straight away, of course. The race winner, Sarah Lati, getting her flowers and medal and prize money. Van Kuldam and Klepper in 2nd and 3rd on the rostrum. Well, it is the blue vest of Roxanne Klepper taking 3rd, and the pink vest, Ineke van Kuldam, the 27-year-old Dutch athlete, taking 2nd. So Belgium 3rd, Netherlands 2nd, but the runaway winner here, as for the last 2 years, Sarah Lati of Sweden. The defending champion she arrived as today. She leaves as reigning champion for the 3rd time. Quite remarkable. 11 times the Swedish champion. The World Championship 10,000 meter finalist in Budapest last year. Well, 2 races to come here. The short course races for men and women. The men's short course race is about 3 minutes away. That's due off at 1/4 the hour. And then the short course race for women as well. 1,875 meters. Just 1 lap for each of the those races, the short course races, men and women.
afstandsspecialisten, de middellange afstandsspecialisten. Het gaat namelijk over 1875 meter. Ze lopen 1 keer die gele ronde. En dan is het knallen, knallen, knallen. 1 ronde lang en dan is het meteen finishen en winnen of niet. Zo werkt het meestal bij een hardloopwedstrijd. Ik trek hier een lijntje en we trekken een finishlijntje. En degene die er als eerste overheen komt, die wint. Dat is het fijne aan hardlopen. Zo makkelijk is het. We kijken naar de korte cross voor de mannen. 1875 meter. Met als topfavoriet Robin van Riel. We zien hier nog belangrijker een goede start. Want hier heb je geen tijd om dat in te maken. En kijk eens naar dat geduw en getrek zeg bij die start. Wat ziet dat er fantastisch uit. Het is Robin van Riel die voor de winst gaat met startnummer 304. Bram Andriessen met 302 ook een favoriet. En ook Rick van Riel, de broer van Robin, die ik onder de favorieten schaar. En wat kan dan de Belgisch kampioen korte cross, Thibaut van der Lanote. Ook hij loopt mee en het is Kevin Vizé en Robin van Riel die aan de leiding gaan met 304. En Kevin Vizé daarachter, die herkenbaar is aan het startnummer 342. En kijk naar dat duwen en trekken. Ze gaan daar bijna onderuit in die eerste meters. Want hier is die eerste bocht zo belangrijk. Want je hebt maar 1800 meter. Je hebt maar 1900 meter om het af te leggen. En daarna is het alweer afgelopen. Dan is de korte cross gefinished. Ik denk van alle korte crossen in de omgeving is dit toch wel een van de allerkortste. 1800 meter maar. Vaak zie je zo afstanden van 3-4 kilometer als je kijkt naar de internationale crossen. Dit is echt voor die 1500 meter lopers met Kevin Vizé en Robin van Riel aan de leiding.
Ja, en het is net zoals, in tegenstelling tot bij de lange cross, zie je hier hard starten, bijna wegsprinten op een 200 meter tempo. En daarna licht temporiseren, om daarna zo lang mogelijk je tempo vast te houden. Dat is toch anders dan bij de lange cross, waarbij je net zoals Niels van Ros deed, een slechte start wat makkelijker goed kan maken.
Ja, hier hebben we nog steeds Robin van Riel aan de leiding. En ik denk dat het Bram Andriessen is inmiddels met startnummer 302 die op de tweede plaats ligt. De nationaal kampioen indoor 1500 meter van 2017. En de winnaar van de korte cross van afgelopen seizoen. Hier bij de Warandenloop van de atletiekclub uit Hoorn. Hier zien we dat hele veld langskomen. 51-tal atleten, nee, een 71-tal atleten. Dat is het aantal atleten wat hier van start is gegaan op de korte cross. En je ziet het, de achterblijvers, ook zij gaan hun 1800 meter afleggen. Kevin Vizé loopt op een derde plaats. 3:36:09, het persoonlijk record van Robin van Riel. Het is Robin van Riel aan de leiding. En achter zit dan Bram Andriessen en dan Rick van Riel. Samuel Chapel. Dus Rick van Riel daar vlak achter. Europees kampioenschap in 2021 werd hij tweede op de 1500 meter. Deed hij zijn broer na, want die werd tweede in 2019. Robin van Riel. En Samuel Chapel, de nationaal kampioen indoor van over 800 meter. Zo is het een zeer spannende race. Hier is de leiding in de handen van de man die luistert naar de naam Robin van Riel. En dan gaan we nu kijken naar de rest van het veld. Hoe gaat het daardoor? Kevin Vizé, die zien we niet meer in de kop terug. Die loopt nu ongeveer op plaats 8. En we zien dat het een tweetal mannen is aan de leiding. Hier wordt geslingerd en daar is die Robin van Riel met startnummer 304. En daarachter is het Bram Andriessen. En dan dat leed met startnummer 306, Samuel Chapel.
Ja, en dan zijn het toch de favorieten op voorhand die je opschrijft die hier aan de leiding gaan. Nou, voor de broertjes van Riel toch een soort van thuiswedstrijd. Zij zijn lid van AV Attila, de thuisvereniging hier in Tilburg.
Ja, Rick van Riel op dit moment 5e plaats. Wie loopt daar dan nog tussen? Dat is de atleet met startnummer 301, Regis Thibert. De nummer 4 van het Belgisch kampioenschap korte cross.
Ja, en als je nu op het rechte stuk krijgt, dan zie je dat de plassen toch wel ver opgedroogd zijn. Dus het parcours wordt in ieder geval een stuk minder zwaar. Gaan we kijken wat voor snelle tijd daaruit kan voortkomen. 5:11, dat is in ieder geval het parcoursrecord. We houden hem in de gaten nu de omstandigheden iets beter worden.
Robin van Riel in 2023, de Nederlands kampioen over 1500 meter. Gaat hier de bocht door en dan is het al slingeren richting de finish. Hier is het wat bergop, wat bergaf. Het is niet heel zwaar, zeiden de atleten daarover, maar je moet continu op de
Test, test, ik hoorde niemand net.
En dan gaan we hier richting de finish. Robin
Hier,
van
kom
Riel
binnen,
heeft
hoor.
de leiding in handen. Hier is Bram Andriessen die een aanval heeft gezet op Samuel Chapel. Maar Robin van
Ik denk
Riel
dat
nog
Richard
steeds
nog aan
aan
het
de
roken
leiding.
is.
Rechtsaf zometeen. Richting de finish. We gaan al naar de
Dat
finish.
moet
Maar
aardig
we zijn
komen,
er
maar
al
de ploegje
bijna.
is nog
Het
bij.
gaat hartstikke snel hier. En gaan we kijken, gaat Bram Andriessen zijn titel van vorig jaar kwijtraken en ook zijn parcoursrecord?
Hier is de finish. De finish van de winnaar. Robin van Riel in 5:08. En dat betekent dat het eerste parcoursrecord van vandaag verbroken is. Tweede plaats Bram Andriessen. Derde plaats Samuel Chapel. En dan is plaats 4 voor Regie Thibert. De atleet in het geel. De Belgische atleet. Die daar dan als vierde finisht.
Ja, en dan lijkt het erop dat de winnaar van vorig jaar, Bram Andriessen, in ongeveer dezelfde tijd als vorig jaar over de finish komt. Toen eerste en nu tweede met het zilver naar huis.
Ja, de mannen die ploffen hier in de commentaarcabine ongeveer meer van vermoeidheid. 5:07. Nieuw parcoursrecord voor Robin van Riel. 5:11 voor Samuel Chapel. En dan gaan we straks nog kijken naar de korte cross voor de vrouwen waar alle atleten binnenkomen. Hier nog een keertje de top 8. Bekijkt u hem nog eens goed. Met op de vierde plaats dus Nick Marsman. En het was Regie Thibert die zesde werd. Wij gaan weer even 1 minuutje de beentjes strekken. En dan zijn we over een minuutje ongeveer weer bij u terug met de voorbeschouwing op de korte cross voor de vrouwen.
Moeten wij al met de spullen terugkomen of rijden we met, met die gate alweer rond dan? Joep.
Ja, we zitten natuurlijk mee te kijken naar de prijsuitreiking hier van de korte cross bij de mannen. Dit was Samuel Chapel. De tweede plaats. Vorig jaar was hij nog de winnaar. En dat was Bram Andriessen. Hij mag zometeen het zilver op gaan halen. Hier gebeurt dat. En de winnaar van de korte cross. Misschien wel van de kortste cross in de zilverseries van de World Athletics, van de World Cross Country. Bij de Warandecross top behoort. Cross misschien wel van allemaal. Het is Robin van Riel die daar het goud pakt.
Well, the athletes, they're receiving their prizes for that men's short course race. Good to see the first three being recognised appropriate. Robin van Riel, the winner from Bram Andreasen, and Sam Chapel taking third place. Just the women's short course race to come. Conditions underfoot remain very favourable, I have to say. It could be windy, could be much wetter. And while there's a few little muddy patches, it's a pretty good morning for racing in this part of the Netherlands today. So the women's short course race to come. 32 starters in this one. That's a more sensible number, I think, than in that men's contest. Due off at 25 past the hour, so about a minute away, but it looks like they're going to get going now. 1,875 metres, same as the men, just one lap for these women. Away they go then. Now, we saw in the men's race a truly dominant run from Robin van Riel, who controlled things from early on, and that's the best way to do it on a course like this, where you want to be able to see the best running line as you approach corners and muddy sections and twists and turns. But will it be the same in this women's race? Dagmar Schmidt was third here last year. She was 4:01. She will be amongst the favourites. Winning time in that men's race, remember, and we expect the women to be just a little bit slower, was 5:07 by Robin van Riel, but the women won't be much slower than that. So let's have a look at these athletes. 4:02 there, Marissa Damink, the 20-year-old leading at the moment. 5 times the Dutch champion. Indeed, she's been Dutch 1,500 metre champion through 2023 and 2024. Damink, she leads that big pack at the moment. It's just beginning to stretch away. There she is in that dark strip at the front. There really isn't much time to react and make adjustments to your tempo in a race like this. You've got to be up there in the top half dozen from the get-go. It's my humble opinion. I mean, 2 minutes on the clock now, and the race is almost half done. And, of course, on the track, if you look at the likes of the Ingebrigtsen family and Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he has changed the nature of 1,500 metre racing, indeed all middle distance racing, for the better, I think, because he makes it fast and furious on the majority of occasions he races, does Ingebrigtsen. And that's what you need to adopt on a course like this. You can't afford to be coming from behind when there's so many twists and turns, and your any reaction to a surge is delayed, and in any case it's hard to get past runners with all these twists and turns. But it is Marissa Damink who leads. In second place, I think that's Dagmar Schmidt from the Prince Hendrik Club. Damink moving well. Lovely smooth runner, actually. Very, very fluid runner, you could say. Hardly any up and down movement of the head there. It means the centre of gravity hasn't been going up and down. That means you're conserving energy. And the gaps are growing fast here now, aren't they? We're down to, what, 5? As Damink goes through. And she's looking very, very comfortable indeed. Damink from Schmidt. Lana Rickert back in third place. But Damink leads mid-race from Dagmar Schmidt in second. And in third is Lana Rickert. And then Anna Kaneinenberg back in fourth. They skip over those log obstacles. They're awkward. They really are. They only look tiny, but they just break up your rhythm. And that's the best you can do on a really flat circuit like this glorious parkland loop in the forest of the Oude Veranda. 4:02, Damink leading from Dagmar Schmidt. And they're just trying to see who that is. It is Lana Rickert, 1:07.61. Is Rickert. But the gap she's building now, Marisa Damick, is quite enormous. She's a great young athlete. 4:04 she ran in Zagreb at the end of the summer for a personal best of 1,500 meters. Now, that was in early September, and that's not so long ago. So it means she finished the summer actually on a bit of a high. She was still improving as the summer came to an end. She ran out of races. I suspect she didn't have much of a break at the end of the summer, and she's carried that great form, personal best form, into the autumn and this winter period. So Rickert has moved through into second place. There's been a change of positions there. Rickert into second. Dagmar Schmidt back in third now. Konijnenberg, Van Opstal, Wibberlink, Pausenga, Burkel, de Jong and Slangeval complete the top 10. Very narrow section there, but through the mud for the final time. And the blue vest of Lana Rickert takes her through there. Rickert has stormed through this second half to ease past Dagmar Schmidt, but the lead built up by Marisa Damick, too big to close down. And Damick now able to ease towards the line and enjoy this finishing straight section. And she glances over her shoulder to see herself clear of the chasing vest of Rickert. And that is a very, very impressive run indeed. Well done to her, Marisa Damick. And she has done really well there to take that one by the scruff of the neck from early on and to make it look relatively easy. She wins from Lana Rickert by 3 seconds, who herself was 3 seconds ahead of Dagmar Schmidt. Those are the athletes on the rostrum: Damick, Rickert and Schmidt. And Van Opstal another 3 seconds back in fourth place. Quite a gap behind her, 7 seconds back to Konijnenberg in fifth place. And then Pip Pausenga, Wibberlink and Burkel rounding out the top 8 here in this final race of the day of our coverage, the women's short course, 1,875 metres. But Marisa Damick, with that run, will get automatic selection for the European Cross Country Championships as well. Well, as in the men's race, the winner of that one, remember, Robin van Riel, never gave his pursuers a chance to get up alongside him or challenge. And Marisa Damick the same in the women's race today. A very, very dominant run from her to win there by 3 seconds from Lana Rickert over 1,875 metres. Nice running. Good to see the spread of nations there. The Belgians, of course, making their presence felt with second and fourth in that one.
Richard, bedankt hè.
For the women's short course race. I like this. Get them over and done with. Bang, straight on to the next race. Otherwise, you get a build-up of presentations necessary. Well, third place in this women's race was Dagmar Schmidt. She was just 6 seconds behind the eventual winner, Marisa Damick, in the centre there. But Dagmar Schmidt of the Netherlands taking third. Lana Rickert ran really well to come through strongly in the latter stages and grab second spot. She was 3 seconds behind the winner, 3 seconds ahead of Schmidt. But the undisputed winner here today, led from gun to tape, very, very impressive indeed, was Marisa Damick. Damick, the Dutch 1,500 metre champion this summer, just gone, and last year as well. 5 times the Dutch champion, ran in the heats of the European Championships back in Rome, but didn't make it through. But her best form came at the end of the summer, 4:04, her lifetime best in Zagreb for 1500 metres. And Dagmar Schmidt there to the right of the three, wearing 4:01. Well, she was third here last year and third again today. Well, it has been a great day's racing at the Warandecross Tilburg cross country, powered by Cappy Europe. I've really enjoyed my time commentating on this one. Just go through those winners again. Marissa Damick, winner of the women's short course race. Robin van Riel, winner of the men's short course race. Sarah Lati, a hat-trick for her, a third win in 3 years. The Swede winning with 26.58, very comfortably, 17 seconds ahead of Ineke van Kuldam in the main women's long race. Roxanne Klepper third in that 8K race for Belgium. And in the men's race, well, fabulous form from the under-23 athlete Niels Laros, the Olympic sixth placer of 1500 metres, showing fabulous stamina, winning with 29.35 by 7 seconds ahead of Deraman Mohammed, his Dutch compatriot, and a third Dutchman, Nick Lemmink, the early leader, taking third spot there, 9 seconds down on Laros. It has been a fabulous edition of the Europe, this cross country, the 65th Warandecross Tilburg cross country, silver label World Athletics cross country gathering, and what a good day of racing it has been here in the Netherlands. 13 degrees centigrade, bit of wind, some sunshine earlier on, and quite glorious morning for cross-country racing. And of course I'll be in Antalya for the European Cross Country Championships in a couple of weeks' time, commentating with Hannah England for European Athletics. Looking forward to that one in Turkey as well. But for all of us in Tilburg, 80 kilometres to the southeast of Rotterdam, the athletes now can head home for their slightly late Sunday lunch and probably some relaxation as well, whether they're Dutch, Belgian or from elsewhere. Plenty of nationalities represented today in the different races, but it has been a fabulous day's racing and I've enjoyed it immensely. Hope you have too. From me, Tim Hutchings, bye-bye.